Hi, welcome back to the Everyday Chef. It's a rather dreary day outside, but it's a perfect fall day. Some liquid sunshine falling outside. And today we're going to talk about one of fall's favorite fruits, the pumpkin. And this pumpkin here is a pie pumpkin. And the difference between that and a regular pumpkin is, other than the size, is that the pie pumpkin is going to be a little sweeter and the meat inside of the pumpkin is going to be less stringy. And these are, obviously, being that it's called a pie pumpkin, more often used for cooking pumpkin pies. But today we're going to make a pasta sauce out of this, and it's really easy to do. The most difficult part, or that takes the longest, is to steam the pumpkin. And to get it ready, all we're going to do is we're going to cut through it, dig the seeds out, and then drop it into a double boiler I have here with the water already going. And to cut the pumpkin, I suggest using a serrated blade. A straight edge might slip on you, and the serrated blade will just cut a little bit better through the tough skin of the pumpkin. So we'll cut right through it. You can see it's a little difficult. So what I'm going to try to do is just get a fork inside of here and help to pry it open a little bit so the pumpkin doesn't actually pinch the blade of my knife. And then all we're going to now just take the seeds out. I have a bowl here. Be sure to get them all, and all this, the dark orange stringy stuff that's holding the seeds in place, get all that out. I just have a heavy spoon here that I'm using to dig it out with. If you want to use an ice cream scoop, you could do that. If you have kids that like getting their hands dirty, you can have them reach in there and grab it, but then you still have to clean a little bit of the stuff out around it. Just scrape it out of there. That looks pretty good. And you can use these seeds, you can roast them off if you want to keep them and roast them for toasted pumpkin seeds. Just let them soak in some water and get all the stringy stuff off of them. Or if you want to keep them to plant on your own next year, you could do that. I'm just going to throw these away, actually. Seeds going everywhere. If you don't have pie pumpkins in your area, you can also use a butternut squash and cook it the exact same way. Just cut it open, clean it out, and then drop it into a double boiler. The flavors are almost identical. And if you don't have a double boiler or a steaming pot, which I have, this one is actually just one pot inside of another, and this one has holes in it so the steam can get through and cook it. And there we go, we're all set here. If you don't have one of these, like I was saying, if you can cook them in the microwave as well. Just take the pumpkins and put them inside of a microwave safe dish, about an inch or two of water in the bottom of it, cover it up, throw it in the microwave for 15 to 20 minutes, the same amount of time it takes in a double boiler, and you'll be good to go. So we're just going to drop these into our double boiler, throw the lid on it, and there it goes. We'll come back in about 15 to 20 minutes and see how they're doing. Well, 20 minutes has gone by, so we're going to go ahead and take the pumpkins out of the steamer. And let's take one out, since I have a steamer basket here. Let's take one out and show it. You can see how the flesh of the pumpkin has gotten to be a little bit more of a golden yellow. And if you take a knife, it goes into the flesh of the pumpkin really easily. And that's kind of what you're looking for. And that'll be really easy to get out of the skin. And I'm going to take the others just straight out of the steamer basket and put them over into the sink to let them drain off. And as they're draining and cooling, I'm going to cut up some bacon. You can see here I have some shallots and some garlic that I've minced. And I have some bacon, so I'm going to cut up some bacon and cook that off real quick. And that's going to be all for our sauce. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll come back in a few minutes to show you how to put it all together. So what we have now is just taking the meat out of the pumpkin. Cooled off a little, you can see it easily comes off. The skin should peel just right off, or should give you very little resistance. But if it does, you can just take your spoon in there and scoop it out. It's still a little warm, so I'm going to use my tongs here to hold it in place. And all we're going to do now is we're just going to take all of the meat out of the pumpkin. Then we're going to stick it in the food processor and puree it. And I found that the best way to puree it is to pulse it. And I'll show you what that means in just a minute. So what I'm going to do is just going to finish taking all the pumpkin meat out of the skin, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to puree it. So all I've done is I've taken the pumpkin and put it into the food processor and pulsed it quite a few times to get a nice consistency. Basically the consistency of baby food is what you're looking for, and so that there's no more strings of the pumpkin meat left in the food processor. I'd pulse it quite a few times, and once you see that it's starting to get there, you might be able to run it continuously. But we're just going to pulse. By pulsing, it keeps all the meat on the bottom of the food processor, whereas if you go continuously, it should rise up. And you can see how it rose up just a little bit, and it's not really getting a nice puree. So that's why we pulse it, to keep the meat toward the bottom of the food processor so the blades can puree it well. So what we have now, I put some pasta in a pot here, and I have some nice tricolor fusilli pasta here. This is a tomato and spinach pasta that I think will go nicely with our pumpkin sauce. And I also have a couple tablespoons of olive oil here heating up in the pan. And what we're going to add to that is our garlic, shallots, and onions. Let us saute those off for a little bit. I also have some sage leaves here that we'll cut up in a little while and put those into the sauce. And also the bacon. I just cut the bacon up, threw it in the skillet, and fried it off. It doesn't matter how big or small, this is really going to be more of a garnish. It's going to add some real nice flavor to the sauce. As you bite into it, it'll give you a nice salty, just the crisp pork flavor. It goes really well with the sauce. You could also use a sausage, or if you wanted to add a little spice to it, you could even go with chorizo, and you could do that as well. But I picked the bacon. I'm really a good fan of bacon. And anything else that we're going to do, we're going to add the pumpkin puree, some Parmesan cheese, some black pepper, some chicken stock, and some milk. And that's really about it. And it'll come together really in a fantastic sauce. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put my sage leaves there for just a minute so I can dump all this. Just take the whole cutting board over here and throw it all in there. And let all this start cooking. Get some of the nice flavors coming out of it. Get that going. And also add some black pepper here too. I find that the olive oil really brings out some of the nice spice of the pepper when you're cooking it early. And I have this on a medium to medium high heat. We're just going to always keep it a constant stir because you don't want things to burn. And once these cook off, we're going to add 2 cups of chicken stock. You could also use chicken broth. It'll give you a much more rich flavor, but I'm choosing to use a low sodium chicken broth instead. So we'll get these cooked off, and then we'll come back and we'll throw everything together, because once this cooks off and you start adding things, it's really going to be a fast process, and the sauce won't take long at all to finish up.